Hey guys, what's going on? It is Orzhov Dunn on the They Said We Said channel, giving you a deck tech for Magic the Gathering. We're doing a standard deck. This is Kaladesh standard. This is going to be what I call Servo Aristocrats. This is going to be a black-green build. I don't even know, mid-range combo? Sure. You know, Aristocrats. For any of you that's been playing, you play little creatures, little tokens, and you sacrifice them for value. So we're going to start off with the mana base here. Hello. We're going to do a play set of Blooming Marsh. So this is the new dual land out of Kaladesh. It's the fast lands. So it reads, Blooming Marsh enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. And it taps for black and green. It's very important in this deck to get off to a fast start, put our pieces in place. It's it's a little less on the interactive side with our opponent. We kind of want to do our own thing. They could kind of swing in and do their thing, and we're just going to gain some life and kind of stick around until we could assemble our pieces. So next we have Hissing Quagmires, and that's going to be the black-green manland from Oath of the Gatewatch. And it comes into play tapped. It has taps for black and green. Then you can tap one generic, one black, one green. Hissing Quagmire becomes a 2/2 black and green elemental creature with Death Touch until end of turn. It's still a land. Ideally, I probably want a play set of these. I just need to go out and get one more. It's not like they're expensive or anything. I just haven't found time to do it. Then next we have the Fallow Orchard. Like I said, I'm probably going to go down to one Fallow Orchard and keep in play set of Hissing Quagmire. I don't want more than that because I do want my lands to come in untapped. And then this is really the win condition of the deck. This is we're running a play set of Westvale Abbeys, and this thing is just an absolute freak powerhouse in this deck. Comes down. We tend to get to the 5 creatures that we have to sack to make the Fresh Prince pretty fast, and once you do, he becomes the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, flying, lifelink, indestructible, haste, and that is the beauty about this deck too. Is we're not only sacrificing to make the Ormondal, we're usually getting a bunch of death triggers off it as well, whether it be Zulaport Cutthroats or the Marionette Masters, the new ones from Kaladesh, which we'll go over in a little bit, and it's just phenomenal. Usually we could just win off the sack triggers. And then on to the basics, we're just running 5 forests, dem trees, and 4 swamps. All matching, because I'm like that. Okay, next we're going to get into the creature base. We're going to start with the 1-drops. We're running a playset of Loam Dryads, and they read, they're from Shadows over Innistrad. They've been there for a while. They read tap, an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color. They're a 1/2, which is kind of relevant just because they kind of stick around to, they can block Servos for days. It's not a big deal, but they're just they're the best Llanowar elf or, Arbor elf we have these days, so we got to play it. Next we have a playset of Night Market Lookout. This is a new one from Kaladesh as well. They're 1 black for a 1/1. Whenever Night Market Lookout becomes tapped, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. So through and through, this is a Cryptolith Right deck, which means we're putting that out as soon as we can. We're tapping things for mana, our creatures for mana, and then whenever this guy becomes tapped, they automatically lose a life and you gain a life. So a nice 2-point life swing. Or if you just get him out on turn 1, you could start swinging through. And it's almost like he's a 2/1 then. Okay, next, really the bread and butter creature of the deck. This is Zulaport Cutthroat. For those of you that don't know, it's kind of the standards Blood Artist now. Not as good, but still great. 2 for a 1/1. Whenever Zulaport Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life, which is very important because we're going to be sacking a lot of Servos. We're going to be sacking a couple of Eldrazi Scions and just other kind of dork creatures. And even, again, for newer players out there, just to explain, if an artifact token or any kind of token controlled dies, it still checks to the graveyard, so you still get that trigger off it. So running a playset of Zulaport Cutthroat, probably the most important creature in the deck. Next, we got the Dustwatch Recruiter, just pure value. 2 for a 2/2. You get to kind of dig and look for your pieces. Tap 1 green 2. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And then, of course, it has the Werewolf trigger. No spells were cast. You flip them over to the Kralin Horde Howler. Makes our creatures cost less, which can be relevant, and the 3/3 body. But he's kind of in here just to do his front side activation, just to kind of find our pieces faster. We're running a 3 of him. Next, we have the Death Cap Cultivator. Sorry, it's late. This guy's a 2 for a 2/1, and he also taps for a green or a black. He has Delirium. If you have Delirium, 4 more different card types in your graveyard, he gains Death Touch. It has not been relevant at all. I don't have any self-milling or anything to kind of turn that on for him. The 2/1, the extra power can be okay sometimes, but he's just in there just to kind of ramp us some more, just in case we don't find our Cryptolith right when we should. This guy's a big surprise. Weaponcraft Enthusiast. I thought this guy was going to be just like a draft card, and not even a good one at that. He looks like Altair from Assassin's Creed or something. But he is 2 generic, 1 black for an 0/1, Fabricate 2. So Fabricate says when this creature enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, or create 2 1/1 colorless Servo artifact creature tokens. So basically, you never put the counters on the Enthusiast. He's 3 for 3 bodies, basically. It's almost like this format's Lingering Souls. I know I'm overselling it a little bit, but it is incredible, and it really fuels this deck. So we're running a full play set of him. Next, we have Catacomb Sifter. Here's another 3. This one's a generic black and green for a 2/3 with the Void. This guy comes with a body. He comes with a friend though, so not as good as the Weaponcraft Enthusiast, and doesn't make as relevant as a token as the Weaponcraft Enthusiast does, but still great because you could sack the Scion for mana, and also with all the death triggers and everything, he gives us another death trigger in Scrying, so we could really find our better pieces running a play set of him. He's got a big butt too, so he could block a lot better. So this is one of the major changes I made to the Rogue Deck Builders build. This is Voldaren Pariah. He had a 1 of in the main board, and then the rest on the side. I'm running a full 3 of the Pariah in the main. This card's just fantastic, especially in this deck. She comes down, she's the flyer. This deck is kind of low on flyers. As a matter of fact, she's the only flyer in the deck. She comes down, and you're usually not going to play her unless you have the creatures to sacrifice, which you will. I mean, that's what the whole point of this deck. And then you can kind of slam her down, and flip her. They got to sack most of their board, if not all of it. You got to sack some creatures, get some sacrifice triggers from your Zulport Cutthroat and your Marionette Masters, and then she's a 6/5 flying beater, and she's got a goat head, which is awesome. So she's super metal. So we're doing a 3-drop. A 3 of in the main, 1 more on the side. So and then this guy. This is the Marionette Master, 6 mana for a 1/3, Fabricate 3. So whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to drop him or her, whatever. So 1/3, you Fabricate 3, you get the 3 servos. And then if you could drop the second one, it's usually lights out, game over, because then you're going to add the counters to the master, so the power becomes 4. So every time you sack one of your servos, they take 4 to the dome. It just gets way out of hand, way fast, and this thing's just an all-star. 6 mana seems like a lot, but in this deck with the Cryptolith Rights and everything, it's very attainable. And then we have a 1 of Noxious Gear Hulk. This thing's just a beast. This is the other innovation that I added. I took out all the Cultivator Blades that Rogue Deck Builder was playing, and I'm playing to add the 2 more Valdarin Prize in the main board, and then the 1 Obnoxious Gearhulk. You know, as well as flying, this deck doesn't have any removal really. We're only running 4 non-creature spells, and that's the 4 Cryptolith Rites. So this thing is a much needed, you know, removal piece. It comes down, you know, gets rid of a Kalitas or whatever's, you know, irking you. And then it has Menace to boot. The life game's relevant. This thing's an all-star. I wouldn't want to see more than 1, I don't think. Maybe 2 of tops, but you know, I have another one on the board. But just 1 in the main is just a nice little silver bullet. And then the last creature in the deck is the Decimator of Provinces, just the standards version of Craterhoof Behemoth. This thing, you emerge it, you could just sack a master, you know, that's 6 right there, so it costs only 3 green. Or, you know, sometimes you hardcast this thing for 10. This deck is very capable of doing that. And it comes down 7/7, Trample Haste. It's just a haymaker. It gives your whole team 2/2 and Trample, and those things, you know, including itself. So if you're playing this, it's usually game over. If not, you're doing it wrong. Okay, and the next thing is the 4 of non-creature spells. That's the 4 of Cryptolith Rites. And these are just fantastic. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. You know, that just kind of gets this deck over the top. So all your dorks and your servo tokens and everything could all tap for mana, and then you could just kind of flood it. Like I said, this is not the most interactive of decks, so if that's not your thing, that's not your style, maybe not. It plays more of like a combo slash, you know, mid-range, kind of like you're doing your own thing, and then you just kind of go off. So leave in the comments below if you like this deck, what improvements you'd make. I'm going to be posting more deck techs, probably do some of my modern decks next.